Bam, we're back. Welcome everybody to another episode of The Awakening Self. My name is Aaron Fisher and today's guest, her name is Zsuzsi. So before we bring her on, let me read her bio to you all. So Zsuzsi, born in Romania to a Hungarian family in 1983, Zsuzsi is living and working in Peru at the Oka Wasi Healing Center as a plant-based medicine healer, therapist, and yoga teacher. Since childhood, Zsuzsi had a deep love for nature and natural healing and always knew she would devote her life in service to healing and well-being of others. A licensed clinical psychologist and psychotherapist, she has been working in a private practice since 2013. Her therapeutic approach is rooted in acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as mindfulness and yoga therapy. As a researcher of ethogenes and psychotherapy, psychotherapy. Zsuzsi's way of working has shifted towards the integration of all her fields of experiences and expertise: shamanic and plant-based medicine healing, movement and practice, and the space of meditation and contemplation. Her work focuses on different emotional disturbances and trauma-related issues. She likes to call her open, clear, and direct approach radical therapy. After more than a decade of experimenting with consciousness-expanding therapeutic properties of psychoactive plants, especially ayahuasca, it's become clear Zsuzsi that the only way she could truly express herself would be through the art of Amazonian plant medicine shamanism. Her exploration has brought her on a catalyzing journey of self-healing and learning. She's been living in Peru since 2015, where she is learning and working in the Shipibo lineage. Her maestro includes Zsuzsi Rivière, Walter Martez, Dimar Lopez, and Wilma Mara Campos. Hopefully I got the names right. Zsuzsi is dedicated yogini and yoga teacher as well, trained in the dynamic style of vinyasa flow yoga. Through her yoga classes, Zsuzsi's mission is to fully support your inward journey, to create a space of inspiration and reflection, to find balance through discipline and self-love. She shares her gift with a unique presence and flair, helping people activate their inner healer, to build an emotional and physical strength, to cultivate the wisdom that leads to their purpose and passion. It's an honor for me to support others going through profound process of change, kindled by work and the medicine with an open, compassionate, inspiring, and easygoing approach. Words of Zsuzsi. So without further ado, bum, bum, bum. Hello.
Hi. Hi, Aaron.
How are
I'm so
you?
happy to be here live with you. I'm good, thank you. What you?
I'm good. It's great. It's always fun to read. It's always fun to read people's bios.
Lots
You
of
know,
names, huh?
there's a lot. There's a lots of things, right? But I remember I was there. I met you in 2018, which was a very interesting experience for myself as well. But interesting as in as in amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was exactly 2 years ago. I think it was a February.
Hmm.
And I'm just sitting right by the Maloka, and for my phone, I built a tower of buckets. Your bucket might be here.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful to still have a bucket there. So I read your bio, very beautiful, but ooh, I'd love to hear about you and your journey and like what got you from, from where you were born to where you are now, and just anything that you'd be willing to share.
Okay, so it can be really anything you don't want to hear, something specific or okay,
Whatever you're open to sharing.
whatever comes up right now. Okay, well, I can tell you that I used to always be a seeker, and it took me quite a while to become from a seeker a finder. And do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And one thing that really was difficult for me, and one thing that really shaped me is identifying myself as a victim. And because of this, I took some choices in my life that were, in fact, not serving me. And so I was sensing this in my earlier years, that something is quite wrong, and I'm somehow sabotaging myself, and I'm not choosing the right things for me. And because of this, I'm simply not finding happiness. And on the other hand, I always felt that I could find the happiness. There is the potential of it inside myself, but something is blocking me. And the biggest realization was that, in fact, not my external circumstances were blocking me, or not the outside, not my family, not those people who hurt me, not anyone who influenced me from the outside was blocking me on my way to find happiness, but in fact it was myself. So this realization came not at once. I can't say that there was one moment when I realized this. I think there were a few moments that were very important in helping me towards this realization. And then I decided to finally take responsibility, and that was a moment when I decided to finally take responsibility for myself, for my life, and start doing choices, start taking decisions that are actually serving me, and regardless of what it will mean in my relationships with, those people at those times, and so on and so forth. So I'm coming from being a victim to realizing it, to taking responsibility for myself, for my choices, and evolving from the peak moments of my life, and continuing living like this and sharing these important teachings with those who are in need of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm very curious to know, so when you say the word victim, because it's a word that a lot of people hear, or sometimes they say don't play the victim. Through your experience, what does that mean? What does it mean, and how do you know if you are playing a victim?
Well, if I would be precise, I suffered trauma when I was very, very young. I prefer not to get into very many details right now, but yes, somebody hurt me, and this event, because I was so young and I became so scared. People, I couldn't trust anyone. Obviously I couldn't trust myself in this life, and it just I was just immersed in fear. And after that, most of my choices in relationships and what types of people I attracted, they were governed by fear. So I was somehow swimming in my own fear, and not being 100% aware how this traumatic 6 years old shaped me and shaped my entire vision of the world and myself in this. And when I realized that in fact there was this event that shaped me in a very how can I say, destructive way, And when I realized that it shaped me like this, but it doesn't mean that I can't go deeper than that inside of myself to discover that I am not this victim. There is more to it. There is more to myself. And this is why I really enjoy working with people who have gone through trauma, whether it's abuse of any type, emotional, physical, sexual, or all of these, or together, any type of traumatic event they experience in their lives. I think what I learned about myself and with all those people I've been working with is that at the moment you identify yourself with being a victim, at that moment you lose connection to your true self. And this was for me one of the most powerful awakenings, so to say, the most powerful teaching.
I think it's very powerful when you live a life where you think that you're a victim. Like, I have no power. You know, I can't do anything. It's, you know, I have no choice. This is the way it is, where it's like, that is just a place that you are, that you got yourself in, and that you have a choice. But it's hard, and it's not an easy transition. People are like, oh, I know that I'm a victim, so now I can change. It's a long process of unraveling a lot of things that takes time. When you spoke about awakening moments, can you share some awakening moments that you have? And the reason that I ask is, you know, you went from Hungary, and now you're in Peru, and like, you know, along the way there, what were these moments where you're like, oh my God?
Okay, there were quite a few moments. So first of all, I think back to my story just a little bit. I'm Hungarian, but I was born in Romania,
Yep.
so I lived all my life in Romania before moving to Peru. And so I was in Romania. I was having a very good life, I can say. A part of the relationship I used to be in, which was a bit painful and destructive, but I was living my life and I was doing things, and some of them were good for me, some of them were not good for me, but I was not really seeing the perspective of where I'm going. And then I started to see that in fact I'm just moving in a circle that is just always the same. I am taking the same decisions, the same kind of choices, and surrounding myself with the same types of people, some of them not doing good for me. And if I want to break out from these little circles, then I need to do something bigger. And then I remember I drank ayahuasca for the first time. It was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And then, among many things, I started to face my relationship problems. At that time, I used to be married. And that moment when I saw that this is not really going anywhere and we are wasting each other's time, then at that moment I realized that I need to do something. And still it took me a few years afterwards to really take the decision to move on and start a new life. But definitely a moment of awakening. Also during this experience, and well, I can't not talk about plant medicines because they were catalysts of many of my awakening moments, and I have a very special connection with plant medicines, and so I can't not mention them as they are really my allies. And in this first event, I also saw myself working with the medicine, working with the plants, helping people, and living elsewhere, living in South America. And everything was so clear. Of course, I ignored it because my life was so different at that time. Everything was so different. And yes, it took me a while to digest all of this information. And then I had another moment of awakening, a very rough one, I can say, when before my previous partner, I started to feel that I will get sick, I will develop cancer or some kind of destructive disease if I don't serve my heart's purpose. Then if I don't do that, then my body will show me that I'm not respecting myself. Because we are embodied beings, then it's not possible to avoid one from the other. I mean, they are all so connected. And when I started to perceive this, then in a very, very short amount of time, I took some radical decisions for myself. And you know, I was so afraid because I thought and I believed that, well, nobody will ever love me. Nobody will ever be there for me. I will probably just suffer alone all my life. I don't deserve to be happy. This was the maximum that I deserved, so I should just, you know, and that moment when I realized that no, even if I will stay alone, even if I will suffer alone or whatever, that will be better than staying stuck. And this realization in itself was huge for me. This definitely was an awakening moment for me, to decide not to stay stuck, and that it's a decision that comes from me, and even if it will create a huge mess, it will be a mess for a short amount of time. It will be it won't last forever, definitely. And those people who need to stay in my life, and those people who respect me and love me, will stay with me and will love me and will respect me. And those who don't, they should not stay in my life. You know how it is when you start to surround yourself with toxic people. It's just like, let's say an analogy with fruits. You have a basket full of beautiful ripe peaches, and you put one that is rotten, then in a very short amount of time all the peaches will be rotten. So it's just like that. And yes, this was a huge moment for me, and after that I started to feel really empowered, started to feel really strong, that I did it simply. And then, interestingly, I came to Peru, and of course it was not a coincidence. It was just meant to be that I came here to visit a good friend, and we decided to participate at a little ayahuasca retreat. And during that retreat, I had some other awakening moments where I saw that I should not go back home. In fact, it was during a ceremony, and it was pretty imperative. I mean, you have been working with the medicine, and you know how sometimes experiences can be overwhelming, and you receive some information that are really making lots of sense. But of course, in order to, fulfill them or live up to them, can be very difficult, if not impossible, or seemingly impossible. So yes, for me, my last ceremony back then, it was in 2015, it was a message that I should stay here and study healing with plants, and suspend my activities back home for a while, for at least 6 months, a year, depending on, well, how things will evolve for me here. And I remember myself, in fact, it was myself talking to vision, but I was old, so I had like an old lady's voice telling myself that I will lose the opportunity of my lifetime if I don't do this. And of course, it's what I truly want. That's why I saw all of this happening many years before. So yes, I decided to, okay, I would like to stay here for a while and for a few months at least, and to see what's going to happen. And of course, you can imagine that this was a huge shock for everybody at home, my family. I really heard them, and a part of myself still, is feeling some kind of regret that I hurt them so much. But on the other hand, I have no regrets because I took the best decision, and now they are very happy for me too, and they are really aware that I took a good decision. But you imagine back then what kind of within all my friends, everybody was very worried for me that I just all of a sudden I say I'm not returning home. All my work, I used to work in private practice, I had my yoga group, I had all my activities, my clients, people, and I'm not returning. My 3-week holidays in Peru just will be longer, and well, I went back home last year for the first time ever since, so I stayed here for 4 years, and all my life changed. I got married, and I met the love of my life. I'm working with the plants. I'm feeling very, very fulfilled and very grateful. That's all I can say, is that every day I wake up with immense gratitude for standing up for myself, for taking decisions that are helping myself and not destroying myself. And I see how, another awakening moment was talking to my parents after, they realized that I'm doing something great. Is that I see that through healing myself, I healed our relationship. How this is not just about me. This is all about the people I care about. It's all about the people I love. Because if I'm doing good, if I'm healing myself, I'm healing my relationships that are meant to be healed, that are meant to be nurtured in my life. Mm-hmm. So that was something very important for me.
I see you. That's beautiful. The whole idea of the transformation and the change, and then coming into your own and then making the decision. It's like, the reason I like to do these talks is for people to see that, like, an awakening moment isn't like, oh, I've awoken and now everything is okay. It's like more work to be done, more work to be done, more things to be done. And, a lot of times when we talk about our surroundings, like, how did you know that your surrounding was toxic? How do you know if somebody is toxic in your life? Because we hear this word a lot, but it's very hard to describe it. You gave a very great example of a great bowl, a great basket of fruit, and then you put a rotten fruit in it. But how would you recognize this rotten fruit in your life if you were to give advice to other people?
That's a very good question. First of all, I think that for somebody to be toxic, a toxic person is someone who is suffering very, very much, but doesn't want to recognize it, doesn't want to deal with it. In fact, this person is blaming everyone else for that constantly. So I guess, generally speaking, you can recognize a toxic person through what vibes this person is bringing. Is this person complaining a lot? Is this person always saying that, no, it's not my fault, it's your fault, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's never my fault? Is this person lazy? Is this person not willing to react, to be proactive in his or her life? Is this person always just commenting on others who are doing things, whereas himself or herself is just, criticizing in a very non-constructive way? This is, of course, these are really the foundations of someone who is toxic. Then this can escalate. This can become way more complex, depending also of what type of trauma this person suffered, they can take over the traits of the persons who traumatized them. They can become very aggressive. They can become emotionally aggressive, like emotionally or physically aggressive. You name it, there is lots of way to be violent.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, the person who is not taking responsibility for herself or for himself. And this is one of the main thing, how you can recognize if you are talking with someone and you feel that you simply feel on yourself that you are getting tired of talking to this person, depleted of energy. You simply you want to run away from it. You feel like your head is going to explode. You are sorry for this person. And now back to my story and back to the story of so many people I have met on my journey, is that then for this person and you stay. And you invite this person because you want to help. But if the person doesn't want to be helped, then you yourself are just destroying all your little, I don't know, stocks of energy and vitality on someone who is just, driving you down constantly.
I think that's a really good example, because sometimes we feel like some people are like, well, I need to save them. I need to be their savior, it's only I can do this. Like nobody else can see it. But then there's that hard line of, are you quitting on them or are you helping them? Because I believe that there is a point that you can help people and you can try and be in their lives, but there is also a point where you need to live your life. And by living your life, you might inspire them to become better, because you show them that there's another option. Not because you're better than them, but because you're like, I've been in this situation and I came into this situation. Here's options within your life. And it's sometimes we become so close to the people that we relate to them in a way that it's almost like you see that you have more to lose than you have to gain by taking a step away. And that as a human can be so difficult, because you're like, but they're my mother, they're my father, they're my cousin, they're my brother, they're my sister, they're my family. But it's like, but what is your real definition of family? And are you getting this from them? It's really interesting what you said. And the next question I want to ask for you is, and it's happened to me in my life, trying to understand my worth. Am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of this? Like when you're thinking about worth, how do you define worth? Like why it's like, I'm trying to articulate the question, but why is it that we question our worth? Why do you think so many of us question our worth?
You're full of good questions today. It's a good one, because I used to, of course, struggle with this a lot. And while I realized that I'm by far not alone with this, it's most of the people I've met struggled with, feeling worthy and being able to think of themselves deserving happiness, deserving all that is good, deserving abundance, deserving joy and health and everything. And I think it's simply a matter of how we are conditioned. So if we are conditioned to think low of ourselves, we don't receive enough care, let's say when we are very young, or we are not validated when we are very young. Let me tell you, so let's say there is a little child and this child is crying, and the parents, they say, oh, stop crying, you're not a little pussy, so please pull yourself together. In this family we don't cry, in this family we don't express emotions, here we not like this, it's not like this. Then this is one way of how a person develops self-worthlessness. like I'm not worthy of anything. So this is like a pattern of mine, a pattern of thinking, you know. Then there are, of course, other ways for developing this feeling of unworthiness through other type of trauma, through, you know, getting disappointed in relationships, whether those are intimate relationships or friendships. You know, if someone cheats on you in any way, you get disappointed. This disillusionment, this can create this feeling of unworthiness. Any kind of failure you don't process as something that, you know, it was just, you know, a lesson for you to prompt you to, or it can be a professional failure and any type of failure that, you know, you don't look at it and let it go, you know, just as it is. It's just one little thing in the ocean of the life. One tiny little wave, and then you don't realize that there is a next amazing wave coming that you can surf on. No, you are still with that little wave that you lost, and you are still crying about that, and hence you develop this feeling of unworthiness. And it's huge, because then this starts to spread all over your mental structure. You feel unworthy to do anything. You feel afraid to start anything. You have this feeling of failure, and you don't want to, because you might feel that it's not gonna work out. But the real problem with this is that you actually attract the failure. You will actually be seen as unworthy. And I find that this is why this self-programming of unworthiness is so dangerous and so destructive, is that if I am spreading this energy of unworthiness, I can't do it, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve it, then of course I won't see the chances that life offers me. Others will look down at me, or others will just not even realize that I'm there. Because this is what I emanate. I emanate that I'm just vibrating so low. I really don't believe in myself. I really don't. Please don't even approach me. I'm in this capsule of my fears, and I'm in this capsule of my unworthiness. And of course, who would want to, you know, do anything, start anything with someone who is resonating in these vibes, you know?
What I like,
so I think,
yeah. Oh, please continue, please.
Yeah, just to resume, I think, of course, there is the roots of the pattern, which is very important to identify why I started to, you know, have this mental self-talk. But on the other hand, how also the universe, the outside, reacts to it and reinforces it. So it's really a two-way dynamics. So when you are facing it, when you see that where it comes from, why it happened, then with this knowledge, you can move on, and you can fix your past by, I don't know, forgiving if you need to forgive to someone for your own, and realizing that it just depends on you after words to take things in your hand. And for people, this can be a truly awakening moment, I think.
100%. And the one thing about us as humans is we're always right. Meaning that, like, if you really feel like you're unworthy, you'll find ways to show yourself that you're unworthy. It's like we're very good at perpetuating and creating our own stories to prove that we're right in our stories, and then become the character in the stories, but then realize, oh, we can't change because this is how I am. Without the understanding that, no, actually, this is where you've written yourself into this place. But you can change yourself. It's like to question yourself, are you enough? Well, you are enough. If you weren't enough, you wouldn't be asking the question, am I enough? Because if you're asking a question, am I something else? It means in your mind that you know that you can be something else. So it's learning to get that, but it's hard. And one of the key things that you brought up that I thought is very important, something that I did when I was younger, because I lived a very interesting childhood where I hurt a lot of people, and I asked for forgiveness. And I also had to forgive myself because not everybody was like, oh, you forgive me? I forgive you too. Some people are like, no. But at the same time, it's like, I put out my forgiveness and I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. But it's not for me to be like, oh, you don't forgive me, then I'm going to have to chase you the rest of my life. I've done my part. I've shared my forgiveness, and that helped me become a lot lighter in my life. So when you spoke about forgiveness, why do you feel forgiveness plays such a vital or important role in people as they're slowly changing?
So I think in any kind of healing process, first you realize what you have to heal. You realize your wound, you realize where you're at, what is blocking you, how you are blocking yourself. So there is this realization foundation, you know, of this process. Then you see that it's the change. So that's a step that could be described as taking responsibility, taking your life in your own hands, stepping up for yourself. You call it how it's best. And then in order to let go of the past, of all those patterns that, you know, past events might have had created, to detach from them, that's where forgiveness plays a role. That's why it is so important. And this is a forgiveness that I think it's best done for not only the person or the people who had hurt you in your past, but also towards yourself, because after that, all your reactions in your life towards yourself were probably very hurtful. So you have to practice this forgiveness towards yourself. And when you forgive yourself, then I think energetically you are forgiven. You are detached from all of those negative chains that you tied yourself to so strongly before. And also forgiveness, I think that, you know, in some cases you can't just, I don't know, call a person. I don't know, let's say you were a victim of pedophile abuse, which I have met on my journey, some people who were very badly traumatized, and you can't do that. It's so unfair what happened to you. You know, say that, hi, you know, it's me, I want to forgive you everything. I think, you know, it's not possible to do that. But inside yourself, you should feel that you let God deal with them. You let justice that is beyond yourself as a human being here. You let a divine force higher than you deal with these energies. You don't want to interfere in feeding them with your sadness. You don't want to feed them with your anger anymore. You want to cut links. And this is why this forgiveness, you deal with it yourself. You simply cut yourself out from this old picture that you suffered so much when you were inside of it. And And this is where I also think faith plays a very important role. That you trust that everything is going to be taken care of. It's not you who have to do. What you can do is help others who suffered. If I'm talking about, you know, some people who suffered so much that their only purpose really can be of helping others who went through the same type of suffering. And this is how they are healing their wounds, which is beautiful. But it's not you who is meant to judge. You are meant to fight. You are meant to deal with it, but you are not there to judge. You are there to cut yourself from feeding these energies. And you have to realize that, in fact, you are, until you process this step of forgiveness, you are still placing your attention towards these people, towards whom they hurt you, or, you know, sabotaged you in any way, destroy your life, or whatever they might have done. If today, this is a very long time ago, but today, if you are today thinking, I'm still angry because of this, I can't just detach myself. Actually, your mental attention, all your inner power is going. So you can't really wish for any good for yourself. I think it's a long way of suffering. So that's why this step is so important in the healing, this forgiveness, to detach yourself, to decide that you are not going to feed the poor, because you are worthy of something better. And this better you create by following these difficult but important steps for yourself.
I think that's very, very important. And the idea of its forgiveness is so important to forgive ourselves, because if I knew what I knew then the chances are maybe I wouldn't have done it. Or the fact is, because I did go through that, then I am able to be who I am today. So, you know, I forgive myself. Thank you for going through that. I honor you. You did something you went through something so traumatic that I'm so grateful for you because of that. Because of the past, I am where I am today, because I don't believe our past is our past, and I don't believe our future is our future. I believe that we can speak to all of them at once, and we can create a relationship and mend and heal a lot of the individuals who we are. So my next question comes down to plant medicine. You know, it's like there's a few things that I want to say, because listen, I've done plant medicine, and you know, when I have conversations with people, they're like, well, why do you call it plant medicine? Why don't you just call it a drug? Like, isn't it just like LSD? So from what I want, because you've had so much experience of it, why do you call it plant medicine? And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so it's medicine because it can bring yourself closer to yourself, to your true self, but it is medicine as well. So you are medicine to me right now at this moment, because things that can be helpful for others, and the same way I can be medicine for you at this moment. So I think this term can also be used, you know, for anything that can bring about something better, that can bring evolution to others. And this is why some of the plants that have been used since thousands of years to bring in betterment on different levels are called medicines. And I am working here with ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is that it definitely can be called a drug. Me, drug, I always think of something that can create dependency and addiction. Ayahuasca definitely is not creating addiction. Well, first of all, it tastes terrible, and the experience is not easy. It's rough sometimes. It's difficult to go through of a strong ayahuasca experience. It feels like there is an inspector going through all your cells and just showing you lots of things that you know from your past or even from your future, but things that can create some frustration, or you can feel very guilty or uncomfortable. I hear many times people getting scared that they see things that they have done, and they were probably not the most discreet or diplomatic doing so. And you see how you are constructed by how you constructed yourself, in fact, by choices you were making. And then this medicine of bringing into your eyes through sight the potential of who you can truly become. And of course, it depends on you, of how you do it, what you are going to do, what choices you are going to take to be able to fulfill your potential. But it's really a very short. It can be a short intervention compared to, I don't know, just talking therapy, which can take many years in order to process trauma or any kind of previous life events that caused present suffering, structure the possibilities that this person could do with their lives, and in which direction they could move. And I think this is why we can call this medicine, because it has the potential of bringing about healing, and anything that can bring about healing, I think you can call it medicine. In the tradition I'm working, it's the Shipibo tradition. The Shipibos are a tribe living in Peru along the Oka Wasi River, and they have kept this tradition since thousands of years. Pretty pure, and they have been using it not only for healing the Western diseases like depression or these kinds of problems, but actually if they had an animal that was sick, they brought the animal to the shaman, to the healer, and the shaman, was drinking the ayahuasca and seeing with what special plant this worked. So this was also used as finding information about healing different diseases. So basically it was used for healing diseases in the diseases among the animals, or bringing luck or so. So it's really vast of the uses of in these ancient traditions. And the beauty of it is that now we can learn how to use them for Western people's problems, because these indigenous people, they were not really facing, or their culturally is so different that the problems they have been using was in many ways very different of what we need the plants to help us right now. So that's why there are so many Westerners right now, foreigners, who are learning to work with these plants. My husband and I, we have been doing this, and we are focusing on the problems of people who have similar issues that we have dealt with in our personal lives or our friends or families, and all of these our culture problems. And so it's very versatile. Plant medicine is very, very versatile, and this is the beauty of it. I don't know if I answered your question, though. I think I got into some little shortcuts or longer cuts, but you tell me.
No, you did great. And I really like how you started off, and it breaks into what we were talking about before, what you were talking about before, of what is a toxic person versus what is somebody that's not. And then you started it by saying, well, we are medicine. People are medicine. So it's almost like a toxic person can be a drug because they're taking things away from you, versus people like, being medicines that will, help to bring things out of you, to make you reflect, to make you start to heal yourself. Because I believe a lot of times in society, people believe that, like, I need to find a healer, where it's just like a healer's job is not to heal you, but to show you that you have the ability to heal yourself, but you just forgot. So let's try and remind you of your ability. Let's remind you of your power. Let's remind you of who you are, because I'm not the one that's going to heal you. And especially if you don't give me permission to do it. What I like about different medicines is sometimes we get so caught up in our problems that it becomes our reality, that when you take a plant medicine, it helps you to take a step back from all the things that are going in your life, give you a better view of it, and then you're like, oh, now I can see a better way to move forward with it. Or now I can see more ways to speak about it and to chat about it. And it gives you a whole new perspective, because sometimes we become so blind. And I believe that it is called medicine because fruit is our medicine, food is our medicine, people, as you said, I like that, are medicine. And it's to help you to better connect with all the beauty and all the things that you are, to see that I am enough, I do have worth. So we have about 5 minutes before it cuts off. It only gives us 1 hour, and then it goes bye-bye. So before we go, there's one question I'd like to ask you, which is,
Okay.
if you could speak to your younger self, what would you say to them?
That I'm amazing, that I don't even have to do anything. I simply deserve everything just by simply being in the world, and to not be afraid of being conscious about that, being conscious about who I am, and that I deserve all the gifts of life, and I deserve to be happy, and that my goal is really to remind not only myself about this, but others too, to be able to create a beautiful world together. And I really believe that this is not just a utopia, and this is not just an illusion, but raising consciousness, I think, is something that we towards contribute to with each of our own little universes. And if we are doing it together and remind ourselves of what you just told me to remind myself, my younger self, about, then we would be able to create slowly a better world for ourselves, for our children, a place that is easier to live in.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Well, before we go, I definitely want to acknowledge you for everything that you do, everything that you are. I appreciate what you've done in your life, the journey that you've come. You could have easily decided to become a victim, but you decided to stand up and really embrace who you are. And by doing that, you have created a space to allow other people to do that. You have created a space for other people to be seen, heard, and feel understood. You've created a space for people to be able to heal themselves. And your story is a very beautiful one, and I wanted to share it with others so they could understand that when you get to this point in your life, meaning that start to understand your worth and who you are, the amazing things that you can do for other people, because you don't get to a point in life where you start to judge people, but you start to accept people because you've accepted yourself. And that is a very beautiful thing for you to have. It's a very beautiful thing for you to share. And, you know, I have nothing but love and respect for you and Yan. You guys are absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I'm very, very grateful for you. I'm so, so happy that we made this happen, and just all the best to you and to everyone who is listening, and big, big hugs to everyone.
So what I'm going to do is just, before we get off, one last thing is I want people to be able to find you and Yan. So where can they find them, Mike? And I'll make sure to put the website and the Instagram and everything after this conversation.
Okay, of course. Of course, I will send you all the links.
Okay. So your Instagram is, which Instagram do you guys use?
So there is the Oka Wasi Center.
Okay.
So Oka Wasi _center. That's our Instagram. That's the places and our works Instagram. And there is my personal Instagram, which is colibri _corazon. And then we have our okawasi.com. But I will let you know, I will write them down to you in a message after.
Beautiful. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. You are incredible.
Me too. I'm super grateful, Aaron. I'm very happy we made this happen. Thank you so much.
And let's do it. No problem. We'll do it again soon. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.